One question I had for you, Anna, coming back to the lower versus higher, when do you write an addendum? Let's say
Mhm.
someone takes it 155, no accommodations. They take it later, they get a 170. Maybe that was with accommodations, maybe not. Is that the sort of thing where, is there a hard and fast rule on when someone should write an addendum, or is that more just like if it makes you feel good?
Well, okay, let me back into it from
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Never write an addendum just because it makes you feel good. And I would venture that 90% of the addenda out there that people either do write or want to write are to make themselves feel better and to satiate their, or deal with their own anxiety. And that's not the end game here. The end game here is what is useful to an admissions officer. That's frankly all that counts, right? And sometimes the things that you do to make yourself feel better are at odds with that. So there are a lot of dumb addenda out there that actually don't add any value, or they just raise red flags, right? If you write an addendum saying, "Oh, my grades were horrible," and because I wasn't passionate about the subject matter, and then I discovered my past, and well, guess what? You're not going to be passionate about everything in law school either. You're probably not going to be passionate about most of it. There are going to be certain things that you get really into, but if you don't perform well, if you're not passionate about it, then grad school might not be for you, right? So it could go wrong in a number of different ways. In terms of how the schools perceive those LSAT and DESA, it really varies. I think some schools, I think Michigan comes to mind, for example, that says if you have a disparity that's greater than X, I don't know, 5 points or 7 points or whatever, it's not even optional. Like, we want to hear why that is.
Mm.
Most schools don't have a policy around, do you have to talk about it? And you would know this better than I, but to my knowledge, there is a margin of error with each of these scores, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes the jumps that the schools are identifying for triggering an addendum is within that margin of error. And I'm thinking, like, what are you supposed to say? You didn't write the test, you didn't score it. You might have done nothing differently, right? And it's just the variation in the score, right? And at the end of the day, you don't actually know. You actually don't know, right? You might say, well, the first time I took it, I really screwed up the game section, and then I didn't the second time or whatever. But a lot of times, if it's a 3-point difference, 5-point difference, even a 7-point difference, maybe it's just, well, I studied differently, or I studied more. Is that useful? For me, I would say no, just let the higher score speak for itself, unless the school specifically says to you to write an addendum, in which case that's what you tell them. I studied more, I studied harder, whatever, and call it a day. Because ultimately, if you're not happy with a score, you don't necessarily have to tell the admissions officer to take your word for it, that one is the better predictor than the other. And to your earlier point, now that they're not averaging scores anymore, just, whatever that high score is, be grateful for that, and don't worry too much about that lower score. But, even with the accommodation situation, I think it can be helpful if you explain that one was accommodated and the other one wasn't. Of course, then you're also telling them about your disability, which you're not required to do, right? Under various laws, you do not have to, and they're not allowed to ask, right? But, assuming that you're going to get accommodations in law school as well, it's not like it's going to be some big secret.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.